Have you ever found a dead body? When I was in a pub on Long Island, I went to use the restrooms. When I was in the stall, I saw writing on the door that said, "Follow the arrows." I looked around, but I didn't see any arrows. Whatever, I didn't think about it. Then, about a month after that, I'm back in the same place, use the restroom to wash my hands before I tear into some buffalo wings. They were out of paper towels, and not wanting to touch the restroom door with my hands, I tried to open it with my elbows. This was a clumsy process, and resulted in my bumping a light switch with my elbow. The room went completely dark. Or did it? On the ceiling I notice a trail of glow-in-the-dark arrows painted onto the ceiling. They're very faded, looks like they'd been there for quite a while. They led out the door. Now I had totally forgotten about the graffiti I had read a month ago, so I didn't really think about those arrows at all. I just pulled my sleeve over my wet hand, used it to flip the switch back on, and opened the door. I went back to my table with some buddies and we chowed down on some excellent wings. It wasn't until the end of the evening when my brain, out of nowhere, remembered the "Follow the Arrows" graffiti in the stall. I excused myself from the table, just to check that it was this stall where I saw the writing. It was. Now I had a mystery. I wanted to follow the arrows, but I couldn't. After I left the restroom, the ambient light was so bright that the arrows were invisible. I told my friends about the arrows, and I asked the bartender about it. He knew about the graffiti but had never seen the glow-in-the-dark arrows. After about 15 minutes of pouring drinks, he took a minute to go check it out. He didn't seem that impressed. I asked him if we could stay after closing and turn off all the lights to see where it went. He said yes. Flash forward 2 hours. The bartender and some of the waitresses are all standing around in the dark of the bar, looking at little faded arrows that make a trail from the restroom out to the front door. We step outside, but the trail is dead. The streetlights outside make the faded glow-in-the-dark arrows impossible to see, if they were even there at all. 3 days later, I'm in geology at my college, when I noticed the display of exotic minerals that the department has in a display case. Inside the case is a small, handheld black light used by rockhounds to find and observe glow-in-the-dark minerals. After the class, I ask the professor if I can borrow it. He says yes, but that if I break it I owe the department $45. Flash forward 9 hours. I drag my buddies back to the bar. We have some more drinks and awesome buffalo wings. When we're done gorging ourselves, it is already dark outside. I went to the bathroom and tested my black light on some of the painted arrows. It worked like a charm, they glowed incredibly brightly, and even with the lights on they were fairly visible. I went back to the table. We pay our tab, and step onto the street. My friends stood around me, trying to look cool, while I was geeking out with my black light searching for invisible arrows on the ground. I found one. I followed the arrow, keeping my black light inches from the ground, waving it back and forth. 5 feet away I found another arrow, then another, and another still. I was following these arrows down a sidewalk for about 2 blocks. My friends finally loosened up and started speculating on where the hell these arrows were taking us. Finally I got to an arrow pointing us in a new direction. It was a driveway leading to an empty commercial lot of some kind. The lot was surrounded by cyclone fences with aluminum siding. We couldn't see what was inside. The arrows led us around the fence and wall to a gate. I saw a lot of glow-in-the-dark paint under my light, and it took me a few seconds and some swinging of the light to realize we were looking at a giant arrow pointing inside the fence. I guess I should introduce you to my friends now. One was Jeff. One was Dave. Jeff pushed on the gate. It was locked and it rattled terribly in the dark. Dave looked uncomfortable. He took a deep breath, and before he could say what I'm certain he was about to say, "Hey guys, let's just go home." I cut him off. I say we hop this baby. Jeff didn't even say anything before he leapt against the gate, getting a firm handhold at the top. Ungracefully, but successfully, he pulled himself to an uncomfortable straddle on top of the gate. I followed suit, leaping at the gate. I didn't reach the top on my first attempt. I put the black light in my pocket and took a running leap at the gate. I got a firm handhold, but I could feel the metal digging into my skin. I made a mental note to get a tetanus shot when this was all over. Jeff helped me up from the top while Dave pushed my legs from underneath. Dave followed next with surprising ease. From our perch on the gate, we could see that the fence surrounded what looked like an old parking lot. Grass and other green things sprang up from the ancient, crumbled asphalt. Immediately below us, on the other side of the fence, was nothing but inky blackness from the shadow cast by the gate from a nearby street lamp. I pulled my black light from my pocket, but from this height, it was useless. To my surprise, Dave was the first one to slide down into the dark. He slid down the fence as low as possible before letting go and taking the final plunge. We heard him stumble, curse quietly, and the stand. "It's okay," he said, "I can see a little. It's just asphalt." Jeff and I dropped down from the fence. I didn't see exactly what happened, but after a lot of cursing, Jeff announced to us that he had busted his knee. After a minute of silent deliberation, he decided we should soldier on. I pulled out my light and quickly found an arrow. We followed a new trail slowly, and it quickly became clear that we were being led to a small shack in the middle of the parking lot. "I know what this is," said Dave. "I think this all used to be a drive-in movie theater. I think that is the concession stand." Jeff and I agreed that this was a pretty good theory. We walked to the building, and as we got closer, saw that it was boarded up. But the shape of it, and its enormous plyboard-covered windows made us think that Dave was probably right. Jeff pulled out a cell phone and held it high above his head. At first I couldn't figure out why, then it became clear that he was using it as a flashlight to illuminate some faded lettering on the wall. We couldn't really see it, but we decided it probably said popcorn. I held up my black light. It glowed purple and bright, but didn't help us read the lettering any better than Jeff's phone had. I scanned the ground for more arrows and found none. Dave shrugged. "So, what? The arrows used to lure people to buy popcorn?" "Looks like," Jeff said. We walked around the building until we came to a door in the back. It was secured by an old combination padlock. My black light hung from a tie on my wrist. I thought I had shut it off now that our mystery was solved, but out of the corner of my eye I caught a glimpse of glowing paint. I aimed my light at it. "Whoa," said Dave. Maybe we all said it. We were thinking it. There on the door, in sharp, new glowing paint was scrawled 1356. Holding the black light close, we quickly rotated the wheels on the lock. Jeff pulled it open with a satisfying click. Pulling the padlock aside, we pushed on the old door. It creaked ominously, and got stuck when it was about a third of the way open. Jeff kicked his foot around the inside and moved an obstruction with thud. The door opened halfway now, and Jeff peeked inside. I can't see anything, he said. I peeked inside the door, shining my black light. It was useless. I cursed myself for not bringing a real flashlight. A black light and a cell phone were not enough to explore in there. It's useless, I said, as I pulled back from the door. Dave took his turn peering in. Just as I was about to suggest we head back to return another day, I heard a click, and a dim light appeared within the building. Holy poop, said Dave. I flipped the light switch, but I never thought in a million years that it would work. Jeff said, yeah, this place looks like it's been out of use for like 30 years, at least. Look at this parking lot. There are trees in it. Someone's still paying the bills, I said, and pushed on Dave to get him headed into the building. We walked in, and saw a surprisingly clean concession stand interior. There was thin coating of that strange sort of dust that accumulates in the absence of people. The sort of dust you would expect to find in an ancient tomb. The shelves were empty, and a cabinet stood on the far side of the room, doors closed. Dave walked to it and opened it cautiously. Holy goat fucker, he said. He always had an interesting way with words. I looked past him to see what had impressed him. Jesus, I agreed. We were looking at shelves and shelves packed with candy boxes. But not just any candy boxes, really old stuff. I recognized Cracker Jacks and Hershey's, but the labels were ancient. I dropped my black light on the floor and grabbed excitedly for a giant box of Necco wafers. This has to be worth something, I said. Before I could examine further, Jeff said, dudes, check this out.